Okay, welcome back to the She Runs Strong podcast, powered by Coach Parry, with myself, Nikki Friedman, UK athletics coach, and Shona Hendricks, sports scientist. Hey, Shona. Today, we are going to talk about our 3 favourite supplements to take, and we're going to talk about introducing speed into your running. So, hello, Shona, how are you doing? And before you answer that, I'm just going to say, I know you did the Two Oceans marathons a few weeks ago, so I'd love to hear a little bit of recap of that. So, how are you doing?
I'm good, thanks, Nikki. Yeah, it was a couple of weeks ago. It feels like a distant dream now, and I've taken some time off. But no, the race itself was it was awesome. It was really, really good. It was my 6th of the. I really want to do 10. Well, I'll do 11 because I want to run in my
All right.
blue number.
Uh-huh,
But yeah, so pretty much like just past halfway now. But yeah, it's the slowest of all 6 of my oceans. But it was my favorite of all
Oh,
6.
amazing.
Which is really cool. And I think it's because look, I had a short build up. I mean, obviously following on from that injury last year. And so I had 8 weeks to get to a marathon to qualify and then
Yep.
12 weeks to oceans. And so really a short amount of time. So I think given the amount of time I had, I'm very happy with how it went. I ran, yeah, as I said, it was my slowest, but my last 8K split was my fastest, which
Amazing.
was
Is that
once
not
you
uphill?
no, it's once you've climbed both hills, and so
Okay.
it's from about the 58, 59 kilometer mark. There are still some undulating bits, and there are 1 or 2 more hills,
So you
you've done
made it
all
up the hill
the
and powered off into.
I know, which was great, and actually I had a really cool compliment. And sorry if I can just say this, it really means a lot to me. And when I got to the top of those hills and I was running along, and someone came past and said, "Oh, you're Shona from Coach Parry," and I was like, "Yes, I am." Half dying, but anyways, um, and he actually said to me, he was like, "It's really nice to see you guys practice what you preach because I can see you do strength training because you were powering up those hills." And
Oh,
so
amazing.
it was just such a nice compliment because I felt like the strength is what got me through. I hadn't done enough
Yeah,
running mileage, but the strength training really, and I know we sound like broken records, but it really made
that
such
you
a big
finished strong.
yeah. So no, it was good. Thank you, Nikki. And
Oh, amazing.
yeah,
Congratulations on that
taken
then.
2 or 3 weeks off. I wanted to take 2 full weeks off, just to really recover. It turned into 3 just because life. But yeah, getting back into things. The goal is Valencia at the end of the year,
Of
as
course,
well.
yes.
So yeah, and so hopefully just keep building on that.
Yeah,
Hopefully towards BQ.
good
So,
thing.
anyway, but let's yeah, we'll get into that.
Okay, another conversation for another day, I guess, with that one.
Exactly.
Yes, 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 yes.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, thanks for asking though, and I hope you are well as
Yep.
well. But
Yep, all good here, all good here. I'm excited for our Q&A
good, good.
pod this
Well,
time. So I think you've got first question.
yes, let me ask that. So the first question here we have is from Sue, and Sue is from Seattle in Washington in the USA. And she says, I love this question. My watch says that I need 84 hours to recover. Is there something
Ooh.
wrong with the watch or me? Yeah. So Nikki, your stab at this from the get go with our watches giving us recovery times and body batteries and all these things as to when we're ready. What are your thoughts?
Oh, the Garmin. Do you know, it's come on so much. All these different watches, Chorus, Garmin. I will always refer to Garmin because that's the one I use. So just for folks, if I say that, I'm meaning all running watches here.
Mm,
But and also we should refer back to that episode that Intutu did for us, which was great about
yeah.
running watches as well. That gives a lot of stuff about all the metrics. But yeah, I mean, these devices, they're great and they give so many metrics now. They're all singing and all dancing and they seem to log like, what you have for breakfast and
Yeah,
all.
exactly.
It's amazing. And I mean, look, they give good sort of um trends of
Yeah.
data that sort of show you what you need to do. 84 hours to recover, that seems like a long time. We don't actually know what workout. I mean, maybe she did a huge marathon or something, but I suspect that's the watch, gosh, kind of over egging it a little bit there. And we need to be careful about still dialing into how we are feeling and how long we think we need as well. Um, excuse me. But um, that's a long time. Uh, yeah, I wonder if she'd done a really mega workout actually.
But I mean, sorry, Nikki. There's the thing. We obviously we don't know what workout she had done, but we also don't know if the data that's going into that watch is reliable.
Well, that's what I was going to say. So it's just like, what did she do? Did she wear a heart rate monitor? And that is one of the key things. Did she wear a heart rate monitor? Because without that heart rate monitor, the data is a wee bit skew with, as I've said before, that technical term, and it's going to be a wee bit skew with going forwards. So it can only give you guidelines, and you need to just really dial into what you think. And maybe she did. Maybe she ran a easy run that was supposed to be easy for 90 minutes or 2 hours, but actually ran it at a super fast pace, and it wasn't truly easy. And the watch has picked up on that and said, actually, you need to recover a lot longer for this 2 hour, slightly faster paced run. Who knows? But I think really she needs to be dialing in and really seeing how she feels, and then wearing a heart rate monitor so that they're getting accurate data there, so the watch can really pick up. I mean, the more you wear your heart rate monitor with your watch, the more valuable the data will be. And still, there's algorithms there that aren't always going to be correct. But I mean, my advice would always be, and I don't know about you, Shona, but I always try to wear my heart rate monitor because I love getting data that's as honest as possible, really. So how about you? Would you always wear your heart rate monitor as well?
I go through phases where I want to be data focused or data centric, and then I will absolutely wear my heart rate monitor. I also go through phases where if I'm not training well or things, I just don't want to think about it, then I'm not too
Okay,
focused.
so you switch
But
off.
yes, but yes, I think when you want to be data focused, you absolutely have to ensure that the information you're giving that watch to interpret is reliable. Otherwise, you can't read into it. You can't take that information at face value at all. So yeah, I think that's just absolutely key. I quite, Nikki, when you said the key question there is how are you feeling, right? I think these watches are, like you said, can tell you what to have for breakfast, but I think we lose the human element there of, okay, well, how are you feeling? Like, we've had questions like this in the forum, my watch, my HRV is this, my heart rate, resting heart rate's X, this. And I know you even went back and answered that question as just said, okay, but how are you feeling? Everything about the watch, and the wearable device, but not about how you're feeling. And I think a key thing here is that we need to turn this around. These watches and wearable devices should be supplementing your decision as a human. That's a objective decision. And there's a saying there that is like, we want to be data informed and not data driven. So this should inform our decisions. You go, okay, I'm actually feeling really tired. My watch says I need more recovery, and my resting heart rate, as an example, is a little bit high. So I think using those to make that decision as opposed to letting the watch make the decision for you, I think is quite key.
Yeah, that's perfect. Nothing to add on to that. That's totally great. Supplement your decision. Yep, and see how you're feeling. Fantastic. Right, next question, Mary from Dublin. Okay, if you were only to take 3 supplements, what would you take as coaches?
Sure, I mean, that's a good question. And here's the thing with supplements. Of course, we want you to get a everything from your balanced diet, right? You should be remember, it's the bottom. Supplements are the top of the pyramid. You don't want that pyramid to be upside down and have the supplements at the bottom. So I think that's a key thing here. But I do think there's value to some supplements. And so, I mean, Nikki, for me on that list is creatine, without a doubt. I think the value and what's shown in the research and in the literature, it is the one supplement that has the most scientific backing to it, in terms of how many studies it's had done on it, how many good studies it's had done, and the benefits from a recovery, a building lean muscle mass. But of course, you can't just take creatine and build. You have to do strength training with that. And of course, there's some studies now showing cognitive benefits as well. So yeah, for me, creatine, that would be my first one. Yeah, what's your first one, and then I'll dive into my second one. Maybe we've overlapped a bit.
Oh, well, I am a creatine fan actually, but I'm not going to put that in my top 3 for today. And so I would vitamin D, because I live in the UK, and I know I live closer to London, which has more sunshine, but in Scotland, either way, we just need to get extra vitamin D. So from bone health and
Mm.
virus fighting and all those good, I would definitely always have vitamin D, and I give that to all my kids and everything. So vitamin D is non-negotiable, really.
Yeah, so that was on my list. It's not something I personally take because I live in South Africa. So
No. Even
stuff
in the
that
winter, you get enough stuff. You probably do, don't you?
I
Really?
do.
Yeah, yeah,
On
yeah.
the households, I mean, it's cold, but the sun is out. So it's lovely.
Out of interest, have you had your bloods taken, and have you had your vitamin
No,
D?
I actually haven't. No, I actually haven't, and I should. But I do. I mean, just from the recommendations in terms of the recommended amount is what 15 to 20 minutes of sunlight a day. And look, maybe get less now, considering I'm more computer bound than in my early career outside testing, working with teams. But I mean, it would be an interesting thing to have a
Yeah,
look
it
at
would be. Uh-huh.
because, like, I know I have friends who live in South Africa who are absolutely religious with sun cream, factor 50 sun cream. And so, yeah, so, and that I do think that's good. Of course, we know the risks of skin
Yes,
cancer. And all
yeah.
that. Again, you do have to give that 15 minutes of almost of some sunlight, but natural sunlight. But yeah, so vitamin D is on my list in terms of my top 3, but just not for me because of where I live.
Got you.
So I guess a second one for me would be a probiotic of sorts. I do have a history of issues with gut health. I've had a surgery on my digestive system when I was in my teens, and so yeah, just managing that gut health with some sort of probiotic, I think is quite key for me. That would be my second one for sure.
Yeah, I've got that as my second one too, and that's just something I've just do you know, I have to say that's a bit more experimental for me at the moment, but I think I've seen other folks benefit quite a lot from that and just searching for the right one. So I think that's quite a good one to really kind of help in this day and age of gut health. So that's a good one as
I
well.
agree. Sorry, Nikki, and just on that, I tend to go in and out of taking it. So I don't take it all the time. Like if I'm training quite hard, like if
Right.
I'm in a focused training block, then I will take it. And then if I'm recovering and all the rest, I tend to not forget about it, but I don't take it as I guess as
Mm.
so I think of some of these as well. Yeah, I think you can also find the times where you need something a little bit more as
More.
opposed to when. But yes, so yes,
Okay.
the second one, and my third one would be whey protein, just because
Yes.
I don't get enough protein in my natural diet, and so I'm trying to complement that to get the correct daily allowance of protein in. Obviously, do enjoy a strength session, and I do want to build lean muscle, and
Yes.
so I'm trying to complement that in the best way. I know that's going to freak a couple of the ladies out. Say trying to bulk. I am trying to bulk. It's the same as toning. We always say we want to thing. You need to build muscle.
Mm.
But so that would be my third. But again, not at the expense of getting the natural sources of protein first. I want to complement it or supplement it, and that's So that would be my third one.
Whey protein. Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, it's just the easiest way to get that extra protein in, isn't it, really? And do you know, so many ladies and guys just, like you say, struggle, and you don't really enjoy cooking and meal prepping and things, do you? So it's a really great way just to sort of sneak it in, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah.
I
Your
tend to
third
take,
one? Yeah.
yes,
Sorry.
I take omega-3s, so
Okay.
that's just for inflammation, and just that's just one of my ones I take, and I also quite like vitamin C. In fact, I could go on for quite a lot, and
I know.
often I have favorites at times, but omega-3s is one of my faves at the moment and stuff. So, I also take protein as well. I've got a vegan protein shake that I
Okay.
tend to use a wee bit, which I really like, and I stir it into my porridge, oatmeal in the morning for those who aren't Scottish. So I find that's a really easy way because oats are quite high in protein anyway. But
Anyway,
then if you stir it, a scoop of vanilla protein in as well, you can just
quite
up the
yummy. Yeah. That and it's quite
yeah,
yummy. Yeah.
that's a
I
good
think
way of doing it.
Yeah, I think that's so key, and you speak around doing things at different times. When you mentioned that, and again, when you're high training, so those are my three that I almost feel are that I personally take. But if I'm coming closer to a race or going through taper, then I will include more, definitely vitamin D, zinc, and vitamin B. So
Yes.
again, I think this varies as to where you are in your training. But for me, the creatine and the whey protein are just my yeah, I guess I'm preparing for the future. I'm preparing for,
Yeah.
you know,
I think what you're saying is it's kind of unique to you, isn't it? And then unique to where you are on a
where
training
you are.
cycle as well. So always bear that in mind of where you are. And definitely if you can get bloods taken,
Yeah,
just to sort of show what you're slightly deficient in to make those tweaks, that's a great way of doing it as well.
yeah, exactly, 100%.
Cool. Right.
Good.
Next question. Okay, Laura from Brighton in the UK. I feel like I'm finally ready to progress from bands to weights, but how do I know which weights to buy? Okay.
Yeah, good. I
Yeah.
mean, good question because like how long is a piece of string, right?
Yeah.
And everyone is going to be different. So you've progressed, which is great, but again, I can't tell you to go out there and buy a 12 kg or a 9 pound or whatever weight or dumbbell and kettlebell because everyone's going to be different. And ideally, we would like a little spread of light, medium, and heavy weights if we can. And what I always say to people is, you might feel a bit embarrassed to go and do this, and obviously it'll hinder any online shopping, but going to a shop or going to the gym and get a feel for what is light, medium, and heavy for you. So light should be that you should be able to complete 12 to 15 reps without fatigue. So if you take a weight and you do that for 12 to 15 reps without fatigue, that's considered a lightweight for you. A medium weight should be between 8 to 12 reps without fatigue, and a heavy weight 5 to 8 reps without fatigue. So you want to, I think, try and get a spectrum of those. What's quite nice I find is to get like a medium and a heavy kettlebell, because there's
Okay.
so much you can do with those. And then perhaps a lighter set of dumbbells, because you can always grab 2 dumbbells in one hand as well, so
Okay.
to vary that. And then, to not get rid of the bands. The bands are still so effective, and very often you can also hold a weight and a band and do, and so you're
Right.
increasing that load at the same time. I've done deadlifts like that where you stand on the longer resistance band, holding the weight and the band, and you can increase the load. But yeah, I think if you could get a variation of those light, medium, and heavy, you really, you're good to go. Yeah, I don't think you need to step foot in a gym again at all. To be fair, yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I suppose it's just getting those right weights and not using them as doorstops, which they end up being in our
I
house. But
know. Exactly.
but a
Doorstops
good,
or, like treadmills that become clothes horse,
yeah,
so
exactly.
you wanna use them. Yeah.
Good set of kettlebells, though. Very often you can buy a wee set that have like 3 or 4 in them that probably are the
Exactly.
right. So that sounds a good plan. All right. Okay, cool. That's a nice question. Let's go crack on to the next question. So
Yeah.
this is a question that was loaded up onto one of our YouTube videos, the episode a couple of weeks back that we did on bone health.
Bone health, yeah.
And it's from Mainstream was the kind of handle they used. Okay, and they said, or this is their question, you said there is no upper body loading of the bones. What if you were wearing a heavy running vest? Not super heavy, but around 7 pounds. Doesn't that load your spine and shoulders? She also goes on then to say the oranges are high in calcium, and I eat about 4 oranges a day. One orange is 5% daily in calcium. So we were talking a lot about calcium in that YouTube video with bones and relation. So I think so what she's saying there is that maybe we didn't say much about the upper body loading for the bones in that particular episode. I'm not quite sure what she started, but the basic
Yeah.
question is wearing a heavy running vest. What's your thoughts on that, Shona?
If you want to recover from sessions faster, not feel tired all the time, run pain and injury free, and improve your endurance, then be sure to join me in my upcoming training specifically for female runners over the age of 45. In it, I'll share with you my simple 5-step framework that'll transform your running. Simply scan the QR code on screen now or click on the link in the description to save your seats in the training now. We look forward to seeing you there. Look, I think, so firstly, definitely loading the upper body is vital. And there are many ways to do that aren't necessarily with a weighted vest. I mean, to be honest, I'm not a massive fan of a weighted vest from a
I'm
gait,
not
from a
either.
walking and running perspective. I mean, that's the trend at the moment, is wearing this weighted
Yeah.
vest and going out for a walk and a run. I don't really like that. I think there's so many more effective exercises, strength exercises that you can do. So don't get me wrong, you could wear a weighted vest and do a step up as an example, and I think that is a good exercise. but it's not going to be necessarily. It will be loading the spine a little bit, but we want to be loading, the arms as well. A lot of the muscles in around the musculature around the torso. So I think there's other exercises that you can do. So let's give some, anything that's a bent over row, upright row. So the rows are really good. Some shoulder presses are really, really good. Push-ups. This morning, I actually did some horizontal pull-ups on the bar because I'm not quite there to do pull-ups yet. But there's so much, just even a basic push-up, whether it's against the wall or against a chair or on the floor or a modified push-up, I think are excellent exercises to do. So I'm not a fan of a weighted vest, but because again, I think there's just more dynamic things you can do. And then Nikki, sorry, any comment from you with the weighted vest? I know you're also not a massive fan.
No, I'm not a massive fan. I'm not sure. I know there's a bit of a trend on socials for the running vest, but I think as you've just identified there's better exercises to be done. If you're trying to really focus and bring in that sort of load bearing on the arms, the upper body, then there's better. Even banded work would be better. The weights, kettlebells, anything like that. I'm just not quite sure that the running vest does much apart from possibly it kind of alters the way you walk. Exactly. It's kind of heavy on your system. I'm not sure it's great on your system for that sort of thing, because to really load up your body, strength training, you need to be lifting really quite heavy. I'm just not sure
I agree
gains from it.
No, exactly. Sorry about that. Yeah, I mean, because so she's saying around 7 pounds, so that's what 3.5 kilograms. I'd far rather you do step ups holding 2 5 kg weights in your hands. As opposed, so rather make the exercise easier by holding the weight as opposed to carrying that weight over here. Get the benefit of it that way. So yeah, for sure. And then
just
she goes on.
Go on.
Yeah, uncomfortable. Absolutely. Yeah, she goes on to mention around oranges being high in calcium. She eats around 4 oranges a day. One is around 5% of your daily calcium, and we've read that is the sort of and I guess you're getting a double whammy there: a bit of calcium, a bit of vitamin C. But I'd almost want to make sure that you're not having that at the expense of other calcium sources that are richer in calcium. So
right.
Perhaps some of the more, and perhaps Mountain Stream. I'm not sure if you are vegan or vegetarian, so of course, yes, we want to make sure that we're getting those sources. But 4 oranges a day. I don't know if I could manage 4 oranges a day.
I was going to say it's quite a lot. I suppose that's your orange juice. Maybe you need to get one of those little orange juice squeezing machines or something, and just still you need to count, because 4 oranges, 7, that's 28 oranges a week. Is that right? Have I done the math there?
I hope you maybe.
There's your strength training when you're carrying the bags home. Yeah. With 20 oranges.
You don't need a weighted vest. You just carry your oranges. Yeah. There you go.
And then, so you've worked on your strength, your loading, you've got your calcium and your vitamin C. Yeah, nice one.
If I can just mention quickly, sorry, and I know this has come up in social media. We're talking about upper body loading here, and I just want to mention there was an Instagram reel that came out. That said, females need to do 11 to 12 push-ups a day. And the person who was on the podcast mentioned that they absolutely cannot be modified push-ups. And I mean, when I saw that, I was just like, oh my gosh, if you can't do a normal push-up, you will absolutely benefit from doing a modified push-up. So please don't listen to that sort of stuff. If you need to do modified push-ups, if you need to do them against a counter or against a wall to help you there, take your time to get there. And again, that's better than nothing, right? So I feel like that's just fear mongering from a just trying to scare females into doing
something. Is always better than nothing. Always.
Absolutely. And I still think modified push-ups, when done correctly, are very beneficial. So for upper body loading, for sure. So yeah, but anyway, so there was just an added extra. I've just been seeing that on socials lately. But yeah, let's get on to our last question here. This is from Jackie, and she's actually in London. She's saying, I want to get started on some speed or interval work. Can you recommend a good way to get started? Do I need to go to a track? So I'm assuming Jackie is perhaps new to running, that, she hasn't really ever done any kind of speed work or interval work. So yeah, Nikki, your thoughts around this? Do you need a track? How does Jackie get started with her her intervals.
So you absolutely don't need a track. It can be kind of helpful, but I think actually the better place to start is off track anyway, because it's a brutally, you can get really easily injured on track. If you're new to running and a beginner, quite often, once you've cracked that 5K distance or 10K distance, people very often want to get a little bit faster. So then their mind changes to, how do I get faster? And once you've got that good endurance base, that's a great time to then start working on some speed. And
Nikki, sorry, before you go on, sorry, I just want to echo that, because I think that's the thing, is that people think once they've gone 5 or 10, they go, oh, I now need to do speed work to get faster. But you can't start that speed work until you've got that aerobic base. You're going to have a risk of injury, and you're just going to respond better to the speed work when you have a good aerobic base. So I know it seems people are always like, oh, but I need to do speed to get faster. But yeah, sorry, I just wanted to mention that. Sorry, you can continue with how to
So you've got your base work and your good aerobic engine, and that's great. And I would start, if you've never done sort of speed work and you don't have a background of maybe running in the past or that sort of fast sports, with strides. And that's just, and we have gone through strides on various episodes, but just very quickly, that's just a 20 to 30 second sort of moderately fast burst of speed. You control your acceleration up, you glide along fast, and then you can control your deceleration. And then you come to a stop nice and gently, rest for about 30 seconds to a minute, and you do the same again. And that's the key when you're starting off as a beginner, is that you would be standing rests. And as you progress on, you'd maybe flow into more of a running, rolling rest for that. So I would start with the strides, and start quite easy, maybe 6 to 8, even 4 to start with if you're really not that so confident, but then move it up to a week and get up to 10. If you can do it slightly uphill, that tends to be quite good, because that uphill just reduces the rate of injury. And it really depends on where you are in running, what your previous background is, as to how quickly you could move on. But I would do 2 to 3 to 4 weeks of strides, depending on how much of a beginner, or maybe if you've played sports before, you could get away with 2 weeks to then move it up to maybe some interval work. And if you were doing interval work, I would keep it time-based and just very easy to start with, just like a 1 minute faster, 1 minute standing recovery, 1 minute fast running again, 1 minute standing recovery, and keep the recoveries as standing and full rests to start with. And then over time, you can start rolling those rests into a bit more running, if that's good. I have been running for a long time, but I'm finding that I'm doing interval work at the moment, and I'm just a little bit tired with things. So I'm taking it back now to just doing 1 minute bit of faster work and then 1 minute standing recovery. And it's about those recoveries that really help when you first start your speed work. So whether it's strides, 1 minute faster running or 2 minute faster running, just make sure you're recovered before you start the next faster portion of running. So use time as your guide, not distance, for this particular thing. Because often when you get onto track, that's when distance, you're doing 400s, 600s, 800s. But if you're in a park, or, I mean, a park's a really good place to start with these sort of things. If you're in a park, just use time, or use lampposts or park benches or something, but kind of keep it the same. So keep it nice and consistent. And don't be tempted to try and beat your last interval or your last rep. Just try and keep that consistent each time, that nice, faster paced running. Rest till you feel like you're recovered, and then go again, and then do some progression over time. And I mean, this is where having a coach to help, to give you a bit of structure in this, can really, really help. But yes, how about you, Shona? Have you got something to add to that? Or?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest mistakes I think we see when someone starts intervals or speed work is they think that it needs to be at a maximal effort, which it doesn't. Right? So your point there around, don't try and beat. You don't want to start slow and slowly die a slow death. You want, you also equally don't want, start slow and, like get faster and faster and faster. But you also equally don't want to start too fast and then, fade off. So yeah, you want each of those repetitions to be at a hard, consistent level. Obviously, everyone's pace is going to be different. So I'm not going to give an example of pace, but a great way to figure if you're running these hard enough and not too hard is so you almost want to go at a 7 or 8 out of 10, not a 9 or a 10. It wants to be hard, but you should be able to finish every single one of those repetitions at the same level at which you started. So I think that's just a good gauge. A lot of people go, oh, well, I'm really struggling with these speed or these intervals. And we go and we look, and it's because they're running them too fast. So they don't have to be maximal. The goal is to get as many or all the repetitions at a hard, consistent level.
Yeah, you don't want to be collapsed on your knees at the end of each rep. You want to, in fact, I tend to tell my athletes, and I was down on track this morning, is first two are always a warm-up, so 70%. And hopefully they're not listening to this, but actually that 70% tends to be the consistent effort they have all the way through. It just stops them from starting the first two reps too fast, because I say it's just still part of your warm-up. 70% effort, this is the one to cruise at, and then they find that actually is the right pace, because we're not practicing for 800s or 1500 meters. We're not in that game. Most of us are training for 5, 10Ks and marathons. So when we're talking about speed training, we're talking about holding a moderate speed over a long length of time. And that's what you're practicing, is just a bit of faster running, but not sprint training or not fast. And I think a lot of people come to, and that's where going to track, you get into trouble, because people can't help themselves. They kind of go, well, I've got to beat last rep. And it's like, but that's not what you're here to train. You're here to train to practice running faster for longer over time. So that's why it's quite good eventually to build up to having flowing. So 1 minute on, 1 minute easy run, 1 minute on, which just keeps you flowing a little bit more. But that's in time.
And I just love what you say there around the time versus the distance. I mean, in the same way that we prescribe easy and long runs to time, as opposed to distance, because the relative effects of that on you versus me means you might, if we say go run for 10 kilometers, that's going to be different for you as it is for me. And so it's a similar thing, as opposed to saying run for 1 minute or 2 minutes, as opposed to going to a 400 meter, that's going to be different for A versus B. And so I think as a beginner, I love this to train to time, as opposed to and then just lastly on that point, Nicky, I'm going to add in one more question here quickly, just as linked. There's a couple of, I know Steve Magnus swears by this, to start off with perhaps like 8-second hill repeats. And I'm not saying that hill repeats are necessarily bad, but yeah, what's your thoughts on those 8-second kind of drives up?
Para hill reps. So I love them, and I would absolutely use them. I just wouldn't use them for beginners, because what I've found over time is those are full out power efforts up a hill. And you have to have done really a big warm up. And I've just seen too many people pop their hamstrings or calves doing that. And so for beginners, I would say, look, do a good amount of interval speed work before you come to those, because even though they're 8 seconds, which seems like nothing, it's actually a completely different ball sport. It's a different, totally different. The dynamics, the everything in your body. It's just, if you're going to get injured, that's where you're going to get injured. But once you're ready to do those, and again, you need to phase into those as well. So you need to do the first couple. You definitely need to do the first couple at 70% for those, to prime your body ready for those. But yeah, I wouldn't recommend those for beginners at this stage. I would say hang off, wait a good few months until you're really ready for something like that. And then they're really effective, but not just now.
And it probably is because people are going too hard, too fast, in those. So that's obviously where so again, you want to have those sustained. They want to be power, I get that, but they need to be sustainable. And I like your 70% for the first two, because it just keeps you in check.
It's the acceleration. It's especially for older athletes or mature athletes, it's the acceleration going from 0 to 60 is often where our muscles just ping. And actually it's the same for kids as well, to be fair, because if we were doing this with kids back when I trained younger kids, they would have done half an hour warm up before doing something like this. and adults just don't do that kind of warm up. So if you're
Yeah.
not going to do the warm up, you can't do that kind of fully effective workout. But
Yeah.
yeah, so it's controlling your acceleration if you do that, and then finding the sort of really fast. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's good. I mean, interval work is really great. It is going to help you get that little bit faster time and bring your PBs down. So definitely worth doing. Just don't go too quick. Just don't go and do too much too soon, but just set the base work of your strides and then get into
Yeah.
your time-based intervals and you'll be good.
Yep.
That's good.
Good. Yeah, well, thank you, Nikki. That was a very comprehensive answer. I like it. There's so much we can talk about that, and we do
Yes.
tap into the interval and speed stuff quite often on the She Run Strong podcast. But thank you to all of you for listening. I hope we got some of your questions, or maybe if you've just been thinking about these questions, answered. If you do have questions, please pop them in the comments below, or send through the video questions. We will obviously add those in. It'll be cool to have you on the podcast. But yes, yeah, lovely. Nikki, thank you so much for your time today. And I guess I'll see you again next week.
Yes. All right. Cheers. Bye.
Bye, guys.